Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Urban Bourbon Hour here from the Urban Bourbon Bunker in Chicago. I'm looking forward to this evening, everybody. I will have Jackie Zykan from Old Forester on. She is a master taster for Old Forester. So I'm excited about tonight, excited to talk to Jackie. I think a lot of you are excited as well. I've received a lot of fun messages and a lot of people excited for this. So I'm going to bring Jackie in now. Here she is. Let's bring her in.
What's up?
Hey, Jackie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm drinking a cocktail. I'm good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Why are you in a bunker?
So,
Explain the bunker, please.
All right. So in my condo, it's like the building is made out of concrete. So some of the walls in the interior are concrete. So I just started doing these live videos with this wall behind me. And so I asked people, hey, I need a name for the show. I need a name for like where I am. And people said, well, it looks like you're in a bunker, so it should be the Urban Bourbon Bunker. So it kind of stuck. It kind of looks that way, but it's kind of a fun thing.
It works. Hey, yeah. It's all good.
Well, thank you for joining me. I mean, I was very excited when I asked you to come on, and you said, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Sounds like fun. Yeah.
It's not too often that I get asked to do these at 8:30 at night. So first one. It's been a long day of tasting, and you're like, oh, but can you keep going? Yeah, sure.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I know a lot of people that are watching were very excited that you were going to be on the show. I got all kinds of messages. You're like a rock star of the whiskey community.
No.
You may not think so, but I mean, I got a lot of messages from people saying, wow, this is going to be awesome.
It will be awesome. It will be awesome. I guarantee it will be awesome. It won't be from me. It'll be from you. You're in a bunker. Like, there's going to be a cat walking by every now and then. Okay. But this is great. We're going to do fun things tonight.
Yes, we are, which I'm very excited to get to those. But before we do, people have joined on here, so I'm just going to reintroduce you. We've had a lot of people that have come in. So everyone, welcome to the Urban Bourbon Hour. This is Jackie Zykan. She's the master taster at Old Forester. And we're going to have a fun little conversation here tonight and also do some tastings and then finish with a nice, interesting cocktail.
Yes, we are, aren't we?
Yes.
I had one, so I'm sorry. I went and worked out after work and came back, and it was like the Mick Ultra commercial gone right, where I just like suddenly had an old fashioned in my hand. So sorry, not really.
No, that's perfect.
But
it's encouraged.
It's like a perfect old fashioned.
Oh, yes. Foreshadowing. But
I can see all the comments of people like, "Hey, Forever Home Whiskey, what up?"
Yes. People are excited, so we may even take some questions. People may ask us some questions here, so we may take a few of those. But tell me a little bit about basically. I wanted to have you on because I think you have a unique perspective when it comes to the whiskey industry and bourbon because of the path that you took to where you are now as the master taster at Old Forester. You have like a unique perspective because you came from like that on-premise type of background into where you are now. So can you talk a little bit about like how you got started in like the spirits industry and kind of tell us like how it sort of progressed to where you are now?
Sure. So I didn't grow up dreaming to be a master taster. I mean, I'm from St. Louis. That's not a job there, right? There's a lot of places not a real job. But I bartended my way through college and always had sort of a different standard. I'm a very type A person, and I always had a different standard for cocktails. I was a big nerd about the cocktails I was making. And just I had to be the fastest. I'm super, super competitive. Had to know the history of every single drink, the history of every single product that went into it. I was working at like, let's be totally honest with each other because it's after hours. The first place that was like a Hooters knockoff, but I cared. I cared. Island Oasis drink. Oh my God, it was horrible, but still, love you guys. God, but I don't know. It's just I've always just been a little bit antsy about stuff. So when I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, it wasn't for me. I was actually married at the time, and he got a job here, so I came with him. I had no reason to be here other than to just be married. So I got back into bartending so that I could just meet people and so that I could just keep myself busy, basically. And this 10 years ago, keep in mind, the bourbon scene in St. Louis, where I'm from, 10 years ago was not what the bourbon scene is now at all. I mean, you had like Beam White Label and Turkey, and then people still just called everything whiskey, right? Dewar's is whiskey. Jack is whiskey. It's just whiskey. It's a big umbrella. So I moved to Kentucky. I had never made a Manhattan before, ever, until I was bartending in this bar here. And this lady named Maggie ordered one, and I had to ask someone, like, how the hell do you make a Manhattan? And the way they told me it was absolutely wrong, but I did it the way they said.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but I didn't know the difference. But like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. Maggie and her Manhattan was like my redemption story. I saw there was so much to learn, and then after I moved on and started as a bartender, then bar manager, then beverage director for Fall City Hospitality, and learned so much and had perfected my Manhattan. One day she randomly came into one of our bars and I was like, yes, Maggie, I'm going to make you an actual Manhattan. It's going to blow your mind. And it was perfect. It was Willet Rye, Carpano Antica, Ango, and it was stirred to perfection. It was amazing. And in that moment I was like, I have come so far. This is great. But that weird rant aside, I picked up a lot of shaker for hire stuff on the side. So there's a lot of whiskey brands that are based here in Louisville, Kentucky. And they would come into the restaurant and be like, oh, we're bringing in a group from out of town. Can you make like a specialty cocktail recipe for this?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, well, that cocktail was good. We've got this event coming up. Can you make a recipe for that? Sure, I got you. Oh, there's a news segment we have to go on for the event. Can you do that? Yeah, I got you. So just say yes to everything. And eventually I just sort of built a brand of myself of being the kind of person that shows up on time, which can be rare sometimes in the bar industry. So, I don't know. All these people sort of like ended up at Brown-Forman together. There's a lady who I worked with at Four Roses who ended up at BF. Someone I worked with Woodford's, obviously already BF. Someone from an agency I worked with Jack stuff. Like they were all in a meeting one day, and Campbell Brown was just assigned president of ULFO and said, like, we kind of need somebody that can understand the science side and the production side. And we also need someone that understands the bar side because we're noticing that a lot of the 100 proof is starting to gain traction, and we're seeing a lot of growth in craft cocktail bars. And every single person in the room was like, Jackie, 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 you have to call Jackie. And so I got a phone call. We met for an old fashioned. The rest is history. So here I am, sitting on a biology degree with a chem minor and 10 years of bar experience, and everything just kind of merging together at once.
Yeah, that's what I want. I wanted to touch on that real quick because I when I was doing a little research, I came across that you do have the biology and chem background. So of course, like when you said all these people are in this meeting and they're thinking of like who's the right person for this. Well, you have this sort of like technical understanding of chemistry and the biology, which is not uncommon these days in the industry. It's like it seems like it's almost a requirement for people. So they see, okay, she has this, plus she has all of this experience as a bartender, creating beverage programs. So it's like, yeah, like you said, it's like this perfect fit. So Old Forester, they lucked out.
Aw, that's so nice of you. I'll think off after that comment. That's great. We're gonna keep going.
So like you said, you know, you would just say yes to everything. So you weren't necessarily on this path of like, okay, this is what I see myself in the spirits industry. But as like people started to ask you things, to do things, you're just like, okay, let's check this out. And it sort of like presented this path to you that you just continued on. And then eventually at some point in time, you're like, okay, this seems like I can do this. I can make a whole career out of this. And so you're at Old Forester. You enter there as, I think at the time you were the master bourbon specialist. Is that right?
Yes, they made up a job for me. It was like this weird station of a master mixologist, which I refuse to be referred to as a mixologist.
Okay, I want to know what your feelings were on mixologists.
M-word. I don't M-word. You can M-word. That's cool. I don't M-word. I'm all about the bartender term. Like, it's a bar and I'm tending it. It's whatever. But I don't know. So it was that plus this sort of like global brand ambassador thing. And then 1 week into the job was the groundbreaking ceremony for the new distillery down on Whiskey Row. And I gamble and I said, when those doors open up, by the time that happens, I will be the master taster. Because we had a master taster. We had Marianne, right? Marianne had left right before I showed up. So that slot was kind of still open. And then Elizabeth had taken on the master taster role, but specifically for Woodford. So Old Forester was kind of left like without a master taster. So I told him, I go, by the time the doors open, and he goes, okay, I guess we're doing this then. And I was like, yeah, you're damn right, we're doing it. So yeah, it's training started immediately. And that's a training program developed by Chris Morris, Sophie Hummer, who runs our sensory lab and those departments. And it's a really in-depth sensory training process. I caught a lot of shit today, actually. Can I say shit? Are you okay with me saying?
Of course. This is an adult show, yes.
I say it again. I've been traveling so much. I've been on the road. If anybody out there watches my Instagram page, it's like one day you're in Boston and the next day you're in LA and it's all over. But I haven't been to an actual panel, like sit down descriptive analysis panel with the sensory folks in like 6 months. And I walked in and they were all like, what are you doing here? I'm supposed to be here. There's the chair. I always sit there. Like, this is my place. And like Sophie walked in and she was like, you know what this look is for? This look means you don't show up enough. And I'm like, sorry, but you know what? I still taste and I have a cold and I'm still on it. So I'll let it sink. Good to go. But yeah. Been a weird road. I will definitely say that.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, so as the master taster, it seems like a lot of your responsibilities are not only in terms of like, I know you're in charge of the single barrel program, which I want to talk about, but it seems like you are very heavily involved in like PR and marketing and being a face of the brand. And like you said, you're traveling a lot. So talk a little bit about like how that all fits into like, I'm sure like your main primary responsibility is like making sure that the product that comes out is worthy of the name Old Forester.
Yes, but there's this misperception about this. Like you see faces associated with brands, what you don't see is the entire team of sensory scientists that also partake in that, because your palate will vary so much. The phase of the moon, I gotta be careful about saying that because I'm not going to get into like details about it. Some chick asked me about that once and I was like caught off guard. I was like, it was a joke. I don't know. It depends. Time of the month. If you want to get really too much information, that varies it. If you had coffee that morning, that's going to vary it. It's all over the place. And so you cannot, I would not advise, and it is not wise for any brand anywhere out there to 100% put all their eggs in the basket of one palate. It takes an entire village. It really does. And we've got some remarkable sensory scientists at Brown-Forman that help out with everything. But we do quality assurance tests straight off the still at 6 months, at 3.5 years, and with final products. So there is a lot to be tasting. Like the single barrels, I tasted 33 of those today, and then went and did a non-peated malt descriptive analysis panel. So, okay. Kind of all over. And then I was in here drinking old fashioned. This sounds really bad. I drank water today. I swear, I drank a lot of water. Ate a lot of food. But that's primary focus number one. This is a brand that was 100% founded on quality and consistency. Those are the pillars. If those fall, you have absolutely nothing. Old Forester isn't around because bourbon's popular. It's been around literally for sale for 150 years. Never a day has gone by you couldn't buy it. And the reason keeps going is because they've never given up that promise. So as long as you make a good product, you're solid, you're fine. So yes, quality assurance is one thing. The single barrel program is a little bit of a different beast. That's sort of like do a sort of umbrella flagship check for defects and clear them, but you're not looking for a specific flavor profile. You want a variety. You want everything to be different. But when it comes to new product development, when it comes to proofing birthday bourbon, when it comes to developing the rye or proofing the 1910 where it is, all of that stuff, that's all part of it. But no day is the same. Every day is completely different. So
sounds like it, yeah.
All over the place, yeah. Like today was a weird day. Like there was descriptive analysis panel. There was taxing and proofing of single barrel samples. There was a Wall Street Journal interview. There was an expense report crammed in there somewhere. There was what the hell else did we do today? Looking at changing labels. Like it's literally touching every single piece of the brand on a global level. I'm your face.
Yeah. And now the Urban Bourbon Hour. So we've had a lot more people come in. So I'm just going to reintroduce you again. So everyone that's come in, thanks for watching. I'm talking with Jackie Zykan. She's the master taster at Old Forester. We've kind of been going through like some of her job responsibilities and her background that have led up to where she is today. So Jackie, I wanted to ask you, if someone...
Hey, Whisky out of Denver. Hi guys. I almost wore your hat for this, but I didn't because I was cold. Sorry.
Oh, they must know you. They started following me probably because of you today.
Basketball fans. They're the greatest. I could just sit here and read the comments for like hours. This is great. We should do this.
Yes, I would love to have you back on.
Do this every week. This is great. Sorry.
So a lot of people want to know, like, when they're tasting whiskey or anything really, any spirit, what would you tell people, like, if they want to better their palate, like, what should they do? Should they just, I don't even know what to tell them. Should they just continue tasting different things? Should they be smelling candles? What should they be doing to...
Actually, there's a couple of different things you can do. So I think it sucks that that's the most intimidating part about this category, is that people get... The person's name is Cooter Jenkins. Oh my gosh. I'm so freaking out over this comment. Okay, so the most intimidating part about whiskey is that people who are just getting into the category sit around with a bunch of people who either are or aren't well versed in sipping whiskey. Some people just bullshit their way through it, let's be honest. And they sit there and go, what am I doing wrong? I'm not getting that note. Like, I'm not finding that. You're not doing it wrong ever. And I think everyone needs to just chill out because you're just drinking whiskey, step one, and stop trying to find individual notes and just open yourself up to what does it remind you of and then dissect it from there. But if you want to start training your palate, we have done this in a couple of different cities. We've done an olfactory sort of training. This is how we train in the lab to identify different elements that are in that class, because there's about 200 different aromatic compounds in there. And if you've never smelled cinnamon, you're never going to pick up a glass and go, oh, this smells like cinnamon, right? So you have to smell these isolated things and compare it back and forth. That helps to lock in a sensory memory. Go to the grocery store, smell, taste everything. That's step one. Step two is that never taste something on its own, just by itself. You're lost in the ocean. You need a reference point. So find something that you actually find yourself to enjoy and side by side it with everything and always compare back and forth. Which one has more dill? Which one has more vanilla? Which one has more butterscotch? I mean, if you really want to wax poetic about it and pick out tasting notes, cool. You don't have to list 30 things. I mean, there's usually 5 to 10 very prominent elements of it. Mm-hmm. And then the rest is yeah, no shit, it's got vanilla. They all have vanilla. It's so stop. But
when in doubt, say vanilla.
And Mikey, I do have a plant addiction, but it's not a weed plant, I promise you.
Well, that's okay.
Broke it in my house. Anyway, so, yeah. But you mentioned candles. Candles are a great exercise. So if you go and find yourself a candle and you smell it and focus on things in a categorical fashion instead of just going in and trying to find anything at all, just go in and say, Okay, sweet aromatics, your vanillas, your butterscotches, your toffees, your stuff like that. Which one of those does it have? And then move on and just focus on fruit. Okay, does it have citrus fruit? Does it have orchard fruit? Does it have berries? And then pick it apart from there. You go on to spice. Is it black spice? Is it brown spice? And pick it apart from there. And then you can do the same thing. That's how we do it. That descriptive analysis panel I was talking to you about earlier.
Yeah.
That's literally how we do it. We have a reference example, and then we compare back and forth to it through all of those dissected categories in order to spider graph exactly what the flavor profile of something is.
That's weird. Really cool. I like that, the idea of doing it that way. I do want to go back to the single barrel program because a lot of people have asked me about it, and so I wanted to ask you about it. So it's a very, very popular program. A lot of people buy those single barrels at their local stores, so people are very familiar with it. When you go to taste those, first off, like how many, you have to be tasting just a ton of those because I see a lot of them out there. So like, what is that like? I mean, how many of those are you tasting in like a day or a week?
It depends. So I travel 50% of the time. So the weeks that I am here in Louisville, I have to sort of like condense all of it into that. And your palate will fry. I mean, it's not like an everlasting palate. Like, yeah. I have a high tolerance at this point, and have learned how to deal with it. But it's still an allocated product. You see them everywhere, but probably, I mean, maybe I might be speaking out of turn here, but you're a bourbon nerd, right? You're a whiskey nerd. Like, you're focused in on all those those more frequently. We only sell about 40 a month, and that is across the entire country. We just did one in the UK, and we're about to do one in Australia, which is going to be awesome because that means it's Australia. So hey, but it's interesting. So if you sell 40 a month, you have to replenish that stock, right? Well, if we ship out 3 samples for every kit, you've got to keep 3 times as many barrels all the time, rolling and going. So today I knocked out 33. Tomorrow, I should knock out more, but I'm not. I don't know. It's kind of varies, but you got to stay on top of it. And then keep in mind that sometimes you go to dump those barrels. We're better about it now. We have better systems in place than we have in the past, and they leaked, or the volume isn't enough to meet the minimum volume requirement for the agitator when you go to filter it. So it's a little bit frustrating, but you're going to lose some barrels along the way. So I don't know, 40 or 50 a month, and sometimes I get behind and have to do like 100 or 200 in a row, and that's a long day.
All right, so if you're doing that, like, one, do you taste at a certain time during, like, are you like, okay, my palate's the best, like, at these times during the day, and how do you prevent, like, palate fatigue when you're doing that?
So the prevention of palate fatigue is definitely like laying a base, no tannins of any sort ahead of time on tasting days, no coffee, no tea, no anything of that sort. And then you have to take breaks. You have to stop and take breaks. Water is super, super important. And I don't know, some people like eat random things throughout it. I don't judge it. If I'm taking a break and eating something sort of starchy, I'm going to take an even longer break after I eat that. Because if you eat peanuts, right, you go to taste a barrel, it's going to taste like that. It's the same thing, like, you know, at perfume counters, they have that little shaker with the coffee beans to reset your nose. If you did that and then smell the glass of whiskey, it's just going to smell like coffee because you just like ignited that pathway in your brain. So you have to smell yourself a lot, assuming you don't smell like straight whiskey, which sometimes you do. It's fine. Judge me for smelling like whiskey. But I take a lot of breaks. My key times to taste are 10 and 2. It's weird. I don't know. That's just kind of when it is. My phone is like dying. That's gonna suck. I know. I need a bad. I know. I'm like, how do I do this? Can I leave and rejoin you? Does that work, or do you have to keep going? Oh no! I like on the whole thing. Hold on.
We could do that.
I have a thing. We can figure this out. We got this. I'll just hold the phone. We're cool. Okay. All right. We give a little charge and good to go. So, 10 and 2. 10 and 2. Those are my
All
good
right,
times.
10 and 2. And I'm assuming when you do those tastings, you have to take those out of the warehouse, right? Because it's out of the where the barrels are. It's got to smell like whiskey everywhere. So if you're nosing and then tasting.
I know. This is an argument that we've had for a long time as a brand with our single barrel experience, because prior to the new distillery opening on Whiskey Row, you would actually go into the warehouse in Shively and taste in there, and it's a heat cycled warehouse, and so the vapor is so heavy. I get the experience. There's spiders. It's dirty, like whatever. But like if you're really trying to smell and taste something, it's not the most conducive environment for that. So I pull samples and bring them back to a neutralized environment and actually water them back. They get watered back to 90 because that's what the single barrel program is currently bottled at. Well, dropping all kinds of hints. But for full defect interrogation, if you will, you kind of have to go all the way down to 40 proof.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have heard that. So going all the way down to 40 proof, that really allows you to pick out those defects then when it's that low. Okay.
Defects are going to hide at high proof, and it's really simple behind that. The ethanol is just going to anesthetize your nostril. It's just going to, you go blind. So yeah, things like must is something that we usually don't end up finding in final product or mature product. I know everyone's like, barrel strength, be patient. Okay, just give me like a couple months. Just be patient. I'm not saying we're doing it. My PR manager would kill me, but I'm just saying be patient. Yeah, I'm going to get in so much trouble. What was I in the middle of talking about? Oh, must. Must is a defect, is 100% zero tolerance at Brown-Forman. It's not everywhere. Some people embrace it as sort of an earthy or a porcini mushroom note. We don't. It's must. It's mold. Like, it is what it is. So that's going to come from corn. It's always going to come from corn. It's not going to come from warehousing situation. You can literally go to Scotland and find a barrel that's got 2 inches of mold growing on the outside and taste the juice inside. You will never pick up on it. If you do get it in a final bottled product, it's from the cork. And whiskey can be corked. We get corked bottles all the time. I just found a bottle of birthday bourbon like last week. It's terrible.
So I want to give us some time to do our tasting, but I have one other question for you before we get to that. So I was saying before that, like, it seems like your job entails not only the tasting side, but you're the face of the company. You do a lot of PR. You're into a lot of the marketing. There's been people at Brown-Forman before you that were in a similar position to you that went on to be either a assistant master distiller or left to be a master distiller somewhere else. Is there master distiller in your future? And I'm not saying like, yes, I'm leaving Old Forester to become a master distiller, but is that something that you could see for yourself?
We've had meetings, and if we're going to be totally honest with ourselves here, every single brand, every supplier out there, every distillery has a different definition for that role. I think there's only one other person in the world that I've ever had a conversation with that fully agrees with me eye to eye on this, and that's Fred Minnick. And that some master distillers are more on the marketing side, and some master distillers literally never leave the plant anymore. It's such an automated system, and yes, the human element definitely is there for the sensory aspect of it, but other than that, it's kind of, Jeff Arnett always jokes about it, the master distiller at Jack Daniels. People ask him, like, he'll be like in China, and they'll be like, well, if you're here, who's running the stills? And he's like, same people that run them when I'm in Tennessee. Like, it is what it is. So we have had meetings, we've had these conversations, and I have never told this to anybody, but I guess no time like the present when you're sitting in my living room drinking whiskey with me. I have declined the offer because I have never distilled a day in my life. So you will see me in further roles with Old Forester, but it will not be that title.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. Breaking news.
I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel authentic having it. personally, there's a lot of people out there. We have some amazing production managers that would be more fitting for that role and that title. Personally, I would not feel comfortable taking it.
Well, I think that's really cool that you're honest that way, and we're just like, well, I'll take the title just to have the title and
yeah, no, why?
Yeah.
Like, and then, no, like, that's just setting you up to go out, be amongst all of these other people. Like, no part of it. Something to keep in mind is that we do have 2 distilleries now that are producing Old Forester, and I don't know, we've got a pretty solid identical distillate coming off at both facilities. And obviously, the facility on Main Street, OFD, that distillate is not mature enough for bottling yet. It's only over a year old. But there is going to be a lot of blending involved. So we're just going to drop that.
Okay. All right.
But no, I am 100% with this brand all the way. It's the best brand in the entire world. I just personally don't feel comfortable with that title being assigned to me when that hasn't really been my experience.
Yeah, well, I love that, and your honesty about it as well. So I do have more questions for you, but since you offered to come back on, if you offered to come back on another time, so I'm going to have you on another time. So what I want to do is I want to taste some whiskey with you.
Okay.
So I have
been by myself this whole time. Please tell me someone in the crowd.
Oh, there's lots of people drinking. Yes. So I have the 1910 that I'd like to start with.
Yes.
So I'm going to pour this in here. And so this series is such a cool series for you guys, I'm assuming, and has been really popular since it launched, like 5 years ago or so?
It's been a while, yeah. So the whole point of that series was to start gaining attention to the brand leading up to the opening of the new distillery on Whiskey Row. It's complete now. Like, you're not going to see Old Forester 1965 come out or something like that. Like, we're done. We got it. It's like we are totally good. But 1910 was the last release, and I've got to say it's my favorite release of the entire set.
It's so good. It's so good. So I wasn't able to track one down until just recently. I was actually in Louisville, and I came to the Old Forester on Whiskey Row, and I got a bottle there right after it came out again for this. I don't know, is this the second release of it after it sold out?
Yes. So,
yes.
Okay. So when Whiskey Row first came out, let's do a little backup. 1870 was the first one, and a lot of people were kind of confused. They were like, why is there this like more expensive Old Forester out there? I don't get it. And then they released 1897, and that's when I started with the brand, was with the 1897 release. And they're very different flavor profiles, so it was very polarizing. So some people loved one, some people loved the other, and it was very confusing for people. They either bought one or the other, and like, whatever. When 1920 came out, it was the highest proof we've ever done. Plus, it made it a set. It was finally a plate. Like, it was a billboard on a back bar, right? So it made sense. So we thought, with 1910, we'll release the same amount that we sell of 1920 in a year, because we do really well with that. There's no way we're going to sell all of that.
It was gone, like, right away.
Gone. A year's gone. So it is a double-barreled product, so we can't just pluck more off the tree. We've got to wait. And in order to make that secondary barrel for 1910, which is a heavily charred barrel, charred to the point of near disintegration. So standard Olfo barrel is about a 22-second char. This barrel is about a 60-second char. It's ridiculous. The entire cooper just to shut down their production of their very, it's a mess. So we ran out and we're freaking out. You guys need some more barrels. We don't have more barrels. We're making Jack Daniels barrels. Shit. What are we going to do? So we finally laid more down. It's a 7 to 9 month wait period on that finishing process. So it's finally back though. It's back, and we've made more, and we keep making more, so you won't run out again.
Good, very good. This, so I was just able to have this for the first time very recently, and it is such a tasty whiskey. I mean, for me, like, when I smell this, it's like full on like a vanilla cream and some caramels and like some kind of dried fruit in there. But the palate on this thing for me is like a straight up chocolate bomb. It's so chocolatey.
It is. it's kind of like Nutella and Wild Turkey had a baby. That's what it reminds me of. It's like this chocolatey, nutty mess, but there's a slight smoky char note on the end. And I noticed somebody in the comments said 5 char. No, not a 5 char, not any number char. So, big point of differentiation, Brown-Forman whiskeys. So anything that goes into a new barrel, Brown-Forman anyways, Jack, Woodford, Early Times, Olfo, Coopers, we make our own barrels. And we don't use a char level system because there's no systematic char level system established in the industry. We just designate everything by seconds that it goes to the char chamber. So it's a little bit different. The closest you can associate the Old Forester standard barrel would be just that alligator number 4 char. But the 1910 is literally, it's almost idiotic how dysfunctional those barrels are after that long.
I can imagine. I mean, nearly a minute with the flame going into it, that's doing some... some major damage to the barrel.
Spend all day at the cooperage just pressing the button, lighting shit on fire, and hoping it turned out great.
But I mean, this is so amazing that chocolate flavor, is that coming from that secondary finish mostly, or?
A little bit, yes. The main part is that there's so much smoothness. You basically hit an activated carbon filtration twice because you're hitting active carbon inside that barrel, which is allowing for a lot of notes to shine through that usually don't. So it's interesting. But yeah, you're getting an even heavier toasting of it as well. So you're pulling a lot more deeper out of the wood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at the color. Sorry, I'm like so distracted by the comments. Like, yeah, look at the color. I know it's great.
The color is ridiculous on this.
It's so the reason though is we got to talk about this. We went in order, right? 1870, 1897, 1920, and then we went backwards to 1910. The 1910 first batch that was done was supposed to be released before 1920. I'm giving away like all the secrets here. Like I'm getting fired tomorrow, but that's all good.
No one's watching.
Yeah, no one's watching. For everyone. So we let the finishing process go a little too long, and there's a very narrow window of completion time with it, and we did not feel comfortable after tasting it to release it, so we skipped ahead and went to do 1920 instead.
Very interesting. Okay.
Those barrels still sit there. It's like chewing on a coffee table. Like, they are as oaky can get, and the juice in them is like black. But yeah, we're not going to release anything unless it tastes good. Doesn't make any sense.
Right, for sure. Well,
go out and buy a bottle, John Johnson.
Yeah, go get it, John Johnson.
Go get a bottle before it runs out again. I'm joking. It's not going to run out again. It might run out. I don't know.
So everyone that's joined, again, having a good time here with Jackie Zykan, Master Taster, Old Forester. We've talked a lot about her background and what her experience was leading up to her current role at Old Forester, and now we're on to the tasting of the amazing Old Faux products. So I'm going to pour a little 1920 now.
You go for it.
Which this is
1942. 1942 is a great tequila. I've got the 1920. I'm not going to sip it. Save it for a surprise. I'm going to let you sip it. I know what it is. And I'm not going to taste it 33 barrel strength samples today, so okay.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, when
stop for today, please. Like,
yeah. I was going to say, when you're tasting, Old Forester, the 1910, whatever it may be, like, when you're not working, it probably feels like work.
Yes. I had a discussion with someone today about this, actually, about like, well, what whiskey do you drink when you're not working? I said, I don't. I drink tequila. I drink I drink beer, a lot of everything. But it's hard to get out of the mindset of analyzing something for defects, so that when you go to sip a glass of whiskey, you're sitting there just like picking it apart.
Yeah.
That like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, the 1920, I mean, of course, the 115 proof is just awesome on there.
You know what's so phenomenal about it? There's a lot of high proof whiskeys out there now. It's like a thing. If you start adding water back, some of them kind of fall apart. They get shaky. The 1920 is the most solid whiskey. It holds up to dilution all the way down. So even if you're not a high proof whiskey drinker, still encourage you to get it and find your sweet spot with it, because it is very balanced the entire pathway.
Yeah, and this one is like, when I smell it, it's like cherries. But then when I drink it, it's a lot of caramel. It's nuts. There's even like a cookie, biscuity sort of flavor to it, a little woodiness to it, and some other kind of spices in there, like some green spices, like maybe like a, I don't know, like a
green peppercorn note to it. And I get a lot of like s'mores notes to it as well.
In the finish, I get a lot of like marshmallow.
Definitely. When Chris and I sat down to write the tasting notes for this one, I said, like, it's so s'moresy. It's like you're in the Black Forest and making s'mores in an orchard somewhere. And he was like, Jackie, no, we don't do that. No, we don't do that. You sound like you're on acid. And step 2, we can't say s'mores because it appeals to children. So that's out. Whatever.
So that's out.
So you'll see in the tasting notes, graham cracker, chocolate, and toasted marshmallow, like deconstructed s'more, because s'more as a term is off limits, apparently.
You got to be careful, I guess.
You do. You really
All right.
do. But,
so now on to the item that we had talked about.
Yes. So
this is backstory.
When 1910 was starting to go out of stock, we had a lot of people across the country. It wasn't just like one guy or one lady or whoever. I don't care. Gender doesn't matter. But a lot of people that were like, I'm trying to stretch my 1910 product because I can't find it anywhere. So I've started blending it 50-50 with 1920, which we love. And now we just call it 1915. So this has definitely become a thing. So tonight we're going to make an old-fashioned using the perfect old-fashioned syrup.
Yes.
We're going to make a 1915 old-fashioned, and it's going to be amazing. Yes.
All right, so walk me through this. I've got them both here. What's my ratios? How do I build this guy?
So you're going to go 1 ounce of 1910. Do you have a jigger?
I do.
Okay. 1 ounce of 1910.
All right, so that's 2 of these small guys? 2 of the small side?
1 of the small side. Does it say on the outside of your jigger?
No. I'll just go for it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. This is fine.
All right. It looks like an ounce.
Okay. I trust you.
I know I'm
right up in the camera.
I know I'm not doing great bartending here, but
you're doing great in your bunker.
I'm doing my best. So how much 1920?
1 ounce. We're splitting it 50-50. Okay. Split face old fashioned. So usually we would think 2 ounces of 100 Old Forester, but now we're going to use 1 ounce. And 1 ounce of 1920. Yep. Okay. And use a shot, half ounce. I do a 1/4 ounce of the perfect old fashioned syrup. If you like it on the sweet side, then go ahead and just knock out a whole half ounce.
So let me get this in there. See, guys.
So unplug my phone so I can do this with you. Because damn iPhones, they charge on the bottom, so you can't set them on anything, but it's going to go.
All right. So in goes the perfect old-fashioned syrup. And from what I have read and researched is that you developed these syrups.
I did. So one of the things with trying to promote Old Forester and using the old-fashioned as its signature drink across the country. He said, everyone makes their damn old-fashioned drink. I was tired of people experiencing Old Forester and having a bad old-fashioned with it. So, not judging. Like I said, like, everyone do their own thing. But we just needed something as a brand to make it consistent. So, this is a 2-to-1 Demerara syrup that has all 3 of the Old Forester bitters in it. So, there's a cherry tobacco bitters, a cardamom orange bitters, and a smoked cinnamon bitters. So those are blended together with it. So you don't have to measure out drops or dashes or anything of that sort. You just add bourbon. Done.
I mean, it smells absolutely incredible.
It's amazing. It's great on pancake. It's great, like, I don't know, glazed shrimp with it. I don't know. You just do whatever you want to do.
I love this, guys. If you can find it, go get it.
You like making cocktails at a coffee table in my on the boat. Myself, but that's okay.
Okay, so I should be doing this in a mixing glass, or can I just do it right in my glass?
Okay, rule of thumb.
I have this.
Yeah, look at you with your Libby glass.
Should I put it in there?
You should put it in there with some ice.
How much ice? Just like a few cubes?
Liquid level.
Okay.
Be generous with your ice.
All right, I've got it in there.
Okay. So, and you're gonna stir. Yeah, like that.
Like around the edge. All right. And then I strain it into the glass?
Yeah. So there's a big debate. So do you put it on a big ice cube? Do you put it on a sphere? Do you input your name into it? Like, what do you do? The way that you want to drink it is the right way to make it. Don't let anyone fool you over this. Like, this is insane to me how it's right and wrong way. Like, if you're the one drinking it and you're the one making it, then you do whatever you want to do.
Right.
I like crushed ice with my old fashions. I like it to water down so I can at least hydrate somewhat throughout the day. But I do a lemon and an orange. Yes! Oh my God! Samesies! Look at us! You read the recipe?
I did my research. I know you do lemon and an orange.
So when you're doing peels, everyone at home, heads up, you have the outside of the lemon and you have the inside of the lemon. You want the outside to face your glass. I don't know if you can see this or not. And you give it a little pinch. You can spray the oil.
All right.
Or mine away.
And do I drop that in?
If you want to. It's up to you.
All right. And same with the orange?
Very loosey-goosey, but guess what? It's a cocktail. You're not, like, performing rocket surgery. It's a cocktail over it. So, you got it?
All right, I'm going to squeeze this.
Cocktail glass.
All right, I dropped it in. I got this smoky little cocktail glass.
You need to put some ice in there, though.
Ice?
Ice in there.
All right. Ice is in. This is a Jackie Zykan Old Forester, perfect 1915 old-fashioned.
So good.
Cheers. Cheers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very good.
I fully support the 1915 blend. We might have to do a special release of just 1915.
I think so, yeah. That would be awesome.
For sure.
So what are your thoughts on... So an old-fashioned is your favorite cocktail from what I understand.
It is.
She's even got the tattoo to prove it.
And they're permanent, too, so I better like it.
Yeah, right? What are your feelings on a cherry or anything being added to an old-fashioned? I know that some people say no way. Some people say, yeah, that's how we make them. That's how we like them.
Right. My feelings on garnishes are as such. They should serve a purpose. Anything, anywhere should serve a purpose. So it should be there for either aesthetic pleasing purposes or for flavor, for aromatics. This is why I love to just do citrus peels, because it really helps connect the dots. Old Forester has a lot of citrus notes in it, so it makes such a great old-fashioned. But just the oils on top, and I'm sure you can smell it with your drink.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
So it's great. Do you need to leave it in there? Not necessarily, unless you have nowhere else to put it. Then don't be a dick and just leave it around. To go to the glass, it's fine. But this cherry situation. So some people muddle cherries and muddle doesn't do that, and that's still an old fashioned. It's a Pendennis Club variation of an old fashioned. What I like to refer to as the old smashin'. And if that's your jam, then that's your jam. As long as you drink Old Forester, I don't care how you drink it. But I personally am what I like to refer to as a garnish goat. And if you do not eat that cherry off your cocktail, I'm eating it. If you don't eat the pineapple, I'm eating it. Like, I appreciate the free snack that comes along with a cocktail. So I fully support a skewered cherry, but not a muddled cherry. Preference. No right or wrong. But yeah, who doesn't like a free little snack at the end? Like, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the call to put a couple cubes of ice in there, amazing. It really does just
so good.
Make it so good, yeah.
So good.
But Jackie, that syrup really is adding a lot of flavor to that.
It's so good. So good, and it's done so well that I think we're going to do more of them. That I haven't decided what I want to do yet with it.
I also got your when I was there in Louisville, I got the Grande Flora.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So how do I use that?
That makes an instant Sazerac. So the same way you use the Perfect Old Fashioned to bourbon, that to the rye makes the Sazerac. The rinse is already in there. The bitter is already in there. Get it while you can. It's a limited time offering. That's all I'm going to say. But grandiflora refers back to Magnolia grandiflora, the big trees that have the big white blooms. Mm-hmm. If you make a Sazerac correctly, it should smell just like one of those blossoms. So that's the right point. It's a limited time thing that we just released as part of the rye launch. So get it while you can, like I said. But yeah, it's a fantastic product. They have a cocktail at the distillery right now that has that as a sweetener base for their whipped cream, and it's amazing. So I don't know. Get weird. Feel free to get weird. It's all right.
Get weird. I love that. I think I heard you were on a podcast and you were talking about the creation of these syrups, and are there other just straight bitters by Old Forester as well? Okay, so you were talking about those, and I wish I could remember this podcast because you were saying so many cool things about the story behind how you came up with these bitters and like the sensory memories that you had in mind as you were making theirs. There was like some with like I don't know what they all are, but there was one about your grandmother. There was one about your grandmother. I mean, these were such cool stories.
Old Forester innovates in a way that is historically relevant to the brand. So all the Whiskey Row expressions are all things that legitimately happened as part of the brand story in 1910. In 1910, there was legitimate fire on the bottling line, and they had to put the whiskey back into barrels, and it sat there, and it was very old fine whiskey at the end of the day. It wasn't Old Forester, but still, there's always a legitimate story. So when I joined the brand and took this upon myself as, okay, well, I have this cocktail background, I would really love to have a cocktail mixer line to go hand in hand with Old Forester. And here's how we're going to do it to have it make sense. All the bitters have Old Forester as a base for all of the herbs, so we're not going to use any artificial ingredients or flavorings because that's not how I would make bitters when I'm making my own bitters. So we're going to do it the right way. And every single one of them is inspired by family memories. So smoked cinnamon is actually a cedarwood smoked cinnamon and black tea, but that's too much to put on a label, so we just call it smoked. But it refers back to my dad's side of the family. So I grew up in St. Louis. They lived in Illinois, so it's on the other side of the river, which is always like weird. It's like bizarre land. Like when you're in Kentucky and you're like, oh my God, Indiana, so far, or whatever. Oh yeah, you're in Chicago. Sorry, no offense, but like,
no worries.
Chicago and Illinois are very different.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So my Aunt Terry would always make the best sweet tea, and I had no idea how. Like, you would think, like, okay, tea plus sugar. No, there was something magical about this woman's tea that I could never figure it out. I should probably go back and research that. But nonetheless, that's where the black tea comes from. The cinnamon comes from the fact that Grandma Zykan always had these weird little wax cinnamon pellets in this little owl containers, this air freshener thing. And the smoke part, you're going to die. My mom never let me drink diet soda growing up. Thanks, Mom. Like, I get it now. Like, I totally understand. But back in the day, it was like, why? I don't understand. So at a family function at Aunt Terry's house, I snuck up to a Diet Coke can and was like, no one's around. I'm going to take a sip. And I go to take a sip, and I spit it out because I was like, oh, my God, this tastes like shit. It tastes like ashes. Because my Uncle Ron had been ashing like marble red in it all night long, and I had no idea. So for the longest time, I thought diet soda tasted like cigarette ashes.
Yeah.
not anymore, obviously, but I don't know. So the whole thing, just like family get-togethers on the Illinois Zykan side of the family, was just like wrapped up into this like smoked cinnamon bitters thing. It was weird, but they're all like that. Every single member of the bitters family has like family members and different foods and different memories wrapped in, because that honestly, that's how I always express myself through cocktails. I would go to New Orleans and come back and be like, I need to make something that's dirty and smoky and sultry, nasty and like gritty. And you just get inspired, whether it's through temperature or texture or flavor profile or things of that sort. And so, I don't know, like these bitters are near and dear to my heart. And they're literally little bottles of like family memories wrapped up. And it's important for it to be that way. It can't just be like, oh, root beer is really popular right now, let's do root beer bitters. Like,
Right.
that's not the Old Forester way. The Old Forester way is much more authentic. And so luckily the brand was like, yeah, run with it, go do the thing, and here we are. So
well, that's cool. I'm glad that you shared that story, because that I was remembering you telling these stories about the bitters, and I thought it was really really cool, like everything that was behind them when you developed them.
Yeah,
so,
like the Bohemian Bitters is my favorite one. It's a cherry tobacco flavor profile. My dad smoked a pipe once a year and once only, and it was the anniversary blend from the Tinderbox. It was this tobacco store in North County, St. Louis, and it's a cherry tobacco blend. And I literally made a bitters to emulate the smell of the pipe tobacco. My dad smoked it. Like, it's weird, I know, but
that's so cool.
But it's got to come from somewhere, you know. You do things from your heart, so.
I love that. Well, Jackie, we are running up against the hour of time that Instagram gives us.
Oh, God.
I know.
One. We just got to start another one. We get even weirder.
Well, you promised that you would come back on another time, so I'm gonna invite you on, and we're just gonna drink whatever it may be, whether you're drinking tequila and I'm drinking whiskey, whatever it is, and we'll just talk and have a good time. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was such a blast talking to you. I knew it would be. I knew it would be a good time. And so it lived up to and exceeded everything that I expected. So thank you very much. I know that we've had a ton of people. I started ignoring the comments because I was so enamored by everything you were saying. But
oh my God.
Really, thank you. And I will invite you back on. We'll do this again sometime soon, and let's stay in touch. And
and everyone out there that's watching, if you want to keep tabs on where I am in the world, follow me at Jackie Zykan on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook too, but it's always going to be the same mirrored post, so it's fine.
There's some good stuff on that Instagram, and I know you have a thing about shopping carts.
The Photoshop stories are the best. I insert pictures of myself in child form. You'll see. Just follow me.
Follow her at Jackie Zykan. She's a good follow. There's some funny stuff that happens in the stories for sure. I mean, you saw her tonight. She's very highly entertaining.
I get it. It's
yes.
Cool.
Jackie, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll stay in touch, and I can't wait to have you on again.
It was all my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bye, Jackie. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. That was a really, really fun Urban Bourbon Hour. Jackie has such a great personality, a lot of great stories. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please tune in again tomorrow. I'm going to have Joe Henry from J. Henry and Sons Distillery in Wisconsin. That will also be a fun one, very informative. You can learn about a craft distiller. But thank you, everyone, for joining tonight, and for watching and tuning in, and for all your support. Until tomorrow night, I will see you again. Peace.